For weeks on end, I would literally have to sleep standing up in a corner because I couldn't lay down. I couldn't sit down. I couldn't do nothing except walk a little bit forward. I talked to my guy in Arizona, and he told me, he said, if you're really having that kind of problems, he said, I've known of times where they'll heal people.
The search for answers can be tough. And whether you're tracking the unknown or just trying to find peace within your own mind, sometimes the biggest mysteries aren't out here, they're inside of us. This video is sponsored by BetterHelp, online therapy that fits your life. So we've been filming nonstop, conducting interviews for YouTube, putting together multiple documentaries, and honestly, it's tough. Most days I wake up already thinking about the deadlines I'm behind on. Did I export that client video? Did I schedule this interview? Or are we ever gonna finish this documentary? And that's where BetterHelp comes in. With licensed therapists available anytime, anywhere, you can get the support that you need without the whole long journey. So whether you're facing anxiety, you're facing stress, or you just need someone to talk to, BetterHelp makes it easy to get the help that you deserve. It doesn't matter if you're a filmmaker, a creator, or someone constantly balancing too much. Therapy can and will help. And BetterHelp makes it really simple. So go to betterhelp.com/Bigfoot Revealed to get a special discount on your first month of therapy. Because at the end of the day, the stories that we tell matter, but so does our mental health.
My name's Adam Howell, and we're in Lincoln, Alabama, right here close to the river, probably 100 yards or so, so that's where we're at. It started about the first week of March, like the third or fourth day. I come home from work, saw something across the road, but I wasn't sure what it was, and then about 3 or 4 days after that's when activity started. It was about 11 o'clock that night, and across the road stands about a 6-foot shelf, and there was about a 2-foot round head over the top of that shelf with yellow eyes, and that's what we saw that night. I didn't know they existed, nothing. I didn't even know what it was. Months prior to that, especially on summer nights, when it would be daylight till 8 or 9 o'clock, we would be out here and we would see blue and green, sometimes bright orange lights over the water out here on the lake. The same things that we saw out there on the water, we've also caught pictures of in these woods, or they would flash on these houses, or you might catch a glance of long blue streak going through this wood line right here where we're at. The lights and everything have something to do with it. When it first started, that first week or so, the first things that me and my wife noticed was we wasn't really seeing anything much. It was noises. We were hearing like something would run by and slap the RV. We would be sitting inside late at night when it would get dark and something would run across the top of it. And at the time, this RV was 10 foot high. One of the first things I noticed was 3 days prior to seeing that across the road is when that little 4-point deer skull got laid on our steps. After that, it really started ramping up and it went wide open from that point on.
I have my own YouTube channel, me and my wife have. Started off more about homesteading, and then my wife told I need to start talking about my Bigfoot experiences, and other folks that were willing to speak, start putting some of that out there, so I started. We do a live every Friday night, and one night, Adam popped up in our chat, and I guess he realized I was pretty close to him, because I tell people I'm from Silicaca, Alabama. I don't try to hide where I'm from or any of that. And he started talking to me through the chat, going, hey, you know, I'd like to talk to you about some things I have going on my property or around where I live at. And I said, okay. And so I gave him my email, and that's how we first started speaking, was through email, and he sent me some pictures. And I was looking, I said, well, that looks like something's there, you know. But when we got talking on by phone, I realized he was right within a mile where I had worked a dogman sighting the year before. And back 8 years ago, I had worked a family that had boogers on their property 3 miles north of here. So by what he started telling me, and me already knowing there were some sightings here, you know, I figured in, I said, he has something. So I asked him, I said, you know, can I come visit you one day? And since I don't work but 2 miles from here, so it was real easy to come by, you know. So I come by one night on my way to work, get left home early, come by and sit with him a little while out here by his place. And when I got here, I could tell there was a vibe here. I could tell there was something here. And I didn't know if he was actually dealing with the Bigfoot dogman or if he was dealing with paranormal. I've come to figure out since then, in my opinion, he's dealing with both.
One thing that we have noticed since all this began is when it's weather like right now and it's fixing to rain or it's drizzling rain, the activity is crazy. It had been drizzling rain all day. I come out about 3 o'clock, I heard a racket outside and I thought it was the dogs. So I come out, and at the time we had a cow dog. I was standing at the edge of the camper. All of a sudden, a black streak come between me and the camper. But it was a black streak. You see these pictures of car lights at night with this long red glow? That's what it looked like going by me. I didn't even see it. In my mind, I wasn't thinking cryptid or, I thought it was our dog. So I went back inside, gonna get the dog's food and come out and feed him. And I walked inside and told my wife, I said, give me the buck's food. She said, he's not outside. She said, it's been raining and he's up the hill at our neighbor's house inside. I said, well, he just went by me. And so I got the food anyway. I walked outside, and as I started to step down out the door, there was a 4-point deer skull sitting on our second step.
My wife came. As soon as we turned off the road, my wife said, there's something in here. She really went to feeling it. She thinks more paranormal. Like she said, I'm not 100% fact on it. You know, I'm not 100% fact either on any of them, unless I'm actually seeing it a few feet, you know, in my, you know what I'm saying. So I started trying to figure out why they would be in this area. I pulled up Google Maps. Right off bat, I see there's a lot more woods here than I realized. with farmland mixed in together. I knew there's a major highway right next door, and I'm going like, well, you know, maybe, maybe not. But I knew what the guy had seen the year before. And then I knew what the family had experienced up the river 3 miles. And I just got to thinking, I said, well, it's very possible. Then later on, I realized there was a potato chip company, distributing warehouse right next to the property. And I'm going, whoa, because I know they're going to have a dumpster. And I know they're going to put out-of-date food in there. When they get it at the stores, they're going to bring it back and dump it. And he clarified that for me. Just a host of things going on here on this property that I don't have 100% explanation for, which I don't think none of us ever really do.
My wife went to town, got groceries and stuff. We was putting stuff away. Well, I left a 12-pack of Pepsi on the tailgate of the pickup. I went inside and I come back out about 3 minutes later and those Pepsis were gone. So I thought, well, somebody come by and grabbed them. I didn't think nothing else about that till about 3 or 4 days later. We had some racket and some more slaps on the side of the RV, and I come out of our place on a Saturday morning. The odd thing about all this is when something appears or shows up, you get a feeling. I don't know what it is. I don't know, but you look right dead at, or every time I have or my wife has, you look right dead at them. Well, I just happened to walk outside and I was drinking coffee. It was about 8 o'clock in the morning. I looked dead across the road at this little spot where a trailer was sitting at. And I seen a black dog, and its shoulders and its head was above that white trailer. And I was sitting there looking at it, and he was looking dead at me. And we sat there and looked at each other for like three or 4 minutes, staring at each other. And I'm like, what in the world is that? So I kept looking, and I thought, is that a German Shepherd? It ain't a German. What is that? And I could see its ears pointed up about 5 inches high, and I was like, what is that? Is it a wolf? I went back inside, and I come back out, and it was still there. This was 20 minutes later. It was still there. But this time, it was faced the opposite direction. When I was inside, I got to thinking about it. It's the reason why I come back out. That trailer was about 4 or 5 foot high. And its perfect face, it kind of has a face of a human. It's weird. But its head and its shoulders was above that trailer, so you could tell it was squatted down on its hind end. It was squatted down. You could tell it. But it was 5 foot high squatted down. So seeing that and then seeing the Bigfoot with the faces, I've seen 2 or 3 that kind of look like what people call the ape kind of looking. And then I've seen probably 5 or 6 that they look like us in the face. But I call them the Abraham Lincoln type, where they'll have the round ring of hair around their whole face, but you can just see their cheeks forward, their eyes and everything, but they're grayish looking. I've seen one here that was big and bulky, and it was at night, and we could see its legs and its head and shoulders better than anything because it was trying to hide behind a limb that was anywhere from 8-10 foot high. But its head was sticking up above the limb, and I think he really thought he was hiding from us. But we could see its legs below that limb and its waist. And his legs were probably 1.5 feet wide, each one of them. What we could see. They were huge. But then the rest of the ones that we've seen around here has either been small or thin. They look like football stars or track. They don't look like just big and muscular or nothing like that. I come out from work about 5:30 the other morning, and I had been out about 10 or 15 minutes, and I was looking at something on my phone, of course. Well, I just happened to hear a clicking sound. Well, I looked up, and when I looked up, I saw a glow. Well, it took me a second to focus on it because it was just turning daylight. I mean, it was a little bit dark, but it was starting to lighten, just that twilight or whatever you want to call it. It was just starting to lighten a little bit. But it was glowing so bright, it was nearly hurting my eyes. So I kept looking and I kept looking. Well, then all of a sudden it popped up. And when it popped up and I could see part of its shoulders, I could see its head, its face. Its face was that normal human kind of looking face, but I could tell it had looked like it had like fluffy hair, like a bad hair day, really. But what was crazy was its eyes. At a certain point, you could look at it and you could see the round, big, saucer yellow eyes. And then you look at it, you make one step to the right, and it looked like they were solid, like a solid square glowing. It was really strange, but like I said, you could take 2 steps or a step to the left and you could see its round eyes, and then you move around and look, and it looked just like one of them old flash cameras, that square thing. That's what it looked like. It looked like a square block. And that's what I saw that morning when I come out before work. We think why they're here is food, and a lot of, and one thing is, my theory is there's a lot of old people around here. My wife and I are probably one of the youngest people within a 3 or 4 mile radius right here. There's all retired old people, and they don't get out here. They don't get out. They might get their boat out on the water every now and then, but they don't roam. So this is the perfect hiding spot because there's nobody out here. And then the Frito-Lay chip place is about 500 yards from us, and they have dumpsters out there where they dump chips and meat sticks. The dumpsters stay full all week, every week. So we think it's just a place to stay in a traveling space where they're coming and going and eating, because they have free food all the time over there. There's probably a 5-mile stretch right in here, maybe, where it's wooded and it's pretty thick and you could move around. We're 100 yards from a major interstate right here, which the water bends around and goes under it, under the bridge. I guess they could travel, but then across the highway, it is probably a 2-mile square block of solid, nothing but woods. You can't even walk through it. You would have to beat a path out to walk through it.
Just a host of things going on here on this property that I don't have 100% explanation for, which I don't think none of us ever really do. I mean, we have our opinions and our theories. I just think the way the land is made, you're next to a river, there's food supplies in here, thick cover, and we know they live right up under people. I already know that. I worked a case of them living in almost downtown Birmingham, Alabama, in a big fancy subdivision. And they had to hire security guards because the people got so nervous about them, because the police wouldn't come out there and deal with it. So they hired securities at nighttime. They had the money to do it. So I knew then these things will live right around town. So the town I'm from, Sylacauga, had a sighting right in the middle of town in the 1970s in a creek that comes through town. So it tells me towns don't bother them. They use them or use subdivisions, you know. 'Cause tons of deer is gonna be there. This place in here has a ton of deer, wildlife activity. Plenty of deer, plenty of raccoons, possums. I hate to say it, but plenty of neighborhood cats and dogs.
I had started watching a couple of videos about these people that bad things happen to. And then I also was watching videos sort of people that mysteriously get healed by them or this or that. So I was talking with a guy from Arizona, and I was having a bunch of conversations with him, and he and I were interacting, and he was telling me a bunch of things that they were experiencing, and he was helping us along. He helped me and my wife a lot. They were telling me about some of these people that they had that got healed, that they knew for a fact that these things come in and worked on them. At the time, I had just quit a driving job where I was making I was making $1,800 to $2,000, $2,200 a week. But I was traveling like night and day. And I would get in here at 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, get up at 4 and leave, and my back was gone. It was to the point I would literally, for days on end, my wife would film it too, I would have to sleep standing straight up. For weeks on end, I would literally have to sleep standing up in a corner because I couldn't lay down. I couldn't sit down. I couldn't do nothing except walk a little bit forward. I talked to my guy in Arizona, and he told me, he said, if you're really having that kind of problems, he said, I've known of times where they'll heal people. And he said, you don't ever know what'll happen. He said, but I want you to do me a favor. He said, take your phone, and he said, if you really want to know what they are and who they are, the names, everything, he said, I'll find out. So I did. I put my phone on video and turned the screen on where you could see, and I was holding the phone like this where he could see out. He told me exactly what to do, the instructions and all. So I come across the road, I come in this wood line, he told me where to stop at, and he'd sit right here and talk to them. And they had conversations, I'm telling you. Look, nobody may not never believe that, but I'm telling you, he had conversations with these people and was getting answers. And it wasn't just him getting the answers, somebody else was, that he is tied to, that didn't even know we were doing this. He got names of a couple of them that was here. After that happened, the following morning was a Monday morning, and it just happened that we woke up and it was raining. So I was off work. Well, working like I do, I normally get up at 5 or 6 o'clock and I stay up all day. I can't sleep. Well, about 9 o'clock that morning, and I told my wife, I said, I can't even hold my head up. I'm so tired. Now, this is after sleeping all night, trying to get rest. And I told her, I said, I can't even hold my head up. She said, I am the same way. She said, I don't know what's going on. She said, but I just like to fell out on the floor on this couch. She said, I can't hold my head. So we went in bed and laid down, which is something we've never done. And we was dead out till 2 o'clock that day. I think we woke up about 2 or 2:30. But I first woke up and I looked at her. She got up, she looked at me, and she said, did you feel the camper rocking and the door open? I said, yes. I thought I was dreaming that. She said, no. She said, I felt it too. I said, I felt the camper rocking, and I thought I heard the door open. Well, in the meantime, I get up, I walk outside, I move around, I walk up the hill to the neighbors and don't think nothing about it, but I get to noticing my back is like 20-year-olds again. My back pain, everything that was messed up with me is completely gone. I had no pain, no nothing. I could run. So how that happened, I don't know, but it happened. And I'm pretty sure they done it. I've had zero pain. It don't hurt to ride no more. Matter of fact, I'm driving now. So, you know, that's just what I do and work. And I have zero pain. I mean, it's gone. Compared to the point where I was fixing to have major back surgery. We are expecting a child now, and my wife found out she's around 5 months pregnant. Since then, I've had the feeling since we found out, and we've known for about a month and a half maybe, I've had the feeling this whole time. I even had the feeling before her, and I kept telling her, "You're pregnant." But she wasn't showing, wasn't just, she was having stomach problems at the time, and I kept telling her. I don't know how I knew that. I don't know why, but I kept telling her, "You need to go to a doctor because you're pregnant." And at the time, I cannot have children. You know, we had that discussion several times. You know, she's 40 years old, and she's never had kids. Doctors have told her she would never have kids due to endometriosis and something to do with her reproduction system. I couldn't get into, or I don't know, but it wasn't just her, it's her family also. There's 3 sisters, none of them can. They can't have kids. She couldn't have kids. And now she's pregnant. Even the doctors are wondering, you know, how in the world has this happened? And especially it not happening prior in our life or our age. I mean, you got to consider, you know, I'm fixing to turn 49 in a month, and she's 40, and now we're having our first child. After for years and years and years being told, you know, she can't have kids.
Texted me one day and told me that his wife was pregnant. And when he said that, I didn't know what to say for a second, because I had dreamed that she would be pregnant. Now, I don't know where that come from, but I dreamed that. And why I would dream something like that, I do not know. Unless it was the Lord telling me something. I dreamed that she, you know, was pregnant. And it's just odd that he never spoke to me about that. Then he calls and tells me that, and I've dreamed that. Because I would probably never offer that up to him. I would probably never said nothing about that without him bringing it up first. Which I'm very proud for them, you know, to have expecting. I've told Adam several times that he probably needs to move away from this spot. Something tells me he needs to. And I've told him that, and he knows that. So, but like I told him, these things will follow you too. They've followed me everywhere I moved to. Which I live within 2.5 miles of Creepy Mountain. That ain't no far for something to travel, you know. So I don't know what else to really say about that dream. It's just odd. I mean, for me to dream that she's pregnant, not know that, then him let me know she is.
It's either a miracle or something's done it. But like I said, I have a strange 100% feeling and knowing these things had something to do with it. Why, I don't know. And the very night that my buddy told me about the dream, about me calling and telling him she was pregnant, I had a dream that night, or a vision. I swore I wasn't asleep. I was awake. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning when all this happens. At 2 o'clock that morning, it was like I was awake, but I was told plain as day, I could see one of these things in my face in this vision or dream. And I was told that it wasn't just our child, there was thousands of them. What that means, I don't know. I don't have a clue, but I was told in that dream, plain as day. I woke up, I sit up in bed sweating because it was surreal. It's unbelievable. And you tell anybody this, they think you're crazy. Or even maybe people that research this stuff, you tell them an extreme to the point where you think, well, my wife is pregnant and these things had something to do with me and her physically having a child together. They think you're crazy too. But something's done it. And since this stuff started in March, and we've been dealing with this activity, and it's daily. People talk about they have an experience once a year, or I see these things in videos where people talk about they have an experience when they go out in the woods at 12, 1 o'clock at night, and it's 3 or 4 times a year they go out and research. I don't research them, and I ain't going to, but it's just a point of we live here and we have so much invested in this place, we can't just up and move. And we've had people tell us that. Why don't you just move? But when you got so much invested in friends and land here and everything else, you can't just up and move.
When I started investigating and then I started interacting with other people that had been doing investigations is where I really found out about stuff going back over 100 years. There's 2 that stood out very well, and that was one they called the Chakalaka monster, which is over here at Anniston, Alabama. This was in the 1930s. Farmers in that area were reporting seeing these gorilla-type beings running around their cotton fields and their pastures. They contacted the sheriff at the time of that county. Cannot remember his name, but there's news articles on it about it everywhere. But he formed a group. They did find tracks. They went all around farms looking for these beings, but they never found them. Those beings probably came out of what we call the Chakalaka Wildlife Management Area, which is part of the Talladega National Forest. But that was one of the famous that people knew about. The other one would be the Chilton County Peach Monster, which from here is about 50 miles southwest, where the peach growing area Alabama is. Back in the 50s, a lot of the area farmers were complaining about a lot of peaches disappeared. One guy actually went and set up in his peach orchard and got a glimpse of one of these things, and that's what was getting their peaches. He contacted the sheriff's department. They even made casts of the footprints, and they were in the courthouse for years of Chilton County. My understanding is they have disappeared now. So there's a history of it here, and of course Alabama has the white thing, which has been talked about for years, mostly up north Alabama. That's a white-looking Bigfoot that's been seen and off and on, and that's a big thing. That's what Alabama's kind of known for, is the white thing. There's a lot of history on it too. There's even a Facebook page for it. So now, take that with a grain of salt. I think some of them are truthful, and then I think some of them are just blowed up, But sometimes you can kind of tell which ones are being truthful and which ones are kind of being made up. I've seen a lot of them on there I think were very truthful what they've seen. And have tried to contact a few of them, but people still want to shy away from Bigfoot investigators, and I don't really want to call myself a Bigfoot investigator. I'm just a person that's really interested in it. And just because I seen my own first one, in 2007. My first sighting was in Lowndes County, Alabama, on the Lowndes County Wildlife Management Area. The state of Alabama just had bought this property from Lady Bird. That was Lyndon Johnson's wife, because she was originally from Alabama. They bought 10,000 acres from their family and turned it into a management area. This management area had a very large percentage of hogs and deer on this property. Me and two of my friends, even though we had our own hunting lease right here where I live at in Sylacauga, we decided to just ride down and hunt on this management area on a Friday in January in 2007. We had got down there that morning before daylight and we hunted what they called the north side of the management area. I had seen several deer, they'd seen several deer, but of course it was buck only. So we wasn't able to harvest nothing that morning. So we decided to hunt the south side of the management area over to what they call Swamp Creek area, which is near St. Mark's Church. There's a big green field that I had seen on a map that the management area had planted. It's probably about a 300-400 yard long green field. And I knew there'd be enough room for all three of us to sit on that field and watch it, and one of us maybe harvest a buck or, catch, hogs coming out there. So we got over a little after lunch, I want to say around 1:30. We walked in, and one buddy who became my Bigfoot researching buddy, he got at one end of the field. The other guy got in the middle, and I went all the way down to the furthest end of the field. And that way we wouldn't be facing each other. We'd all be facing away from each other. That way if, a deer stepped out in the field, we'd have a good safety, safe, clear shot. That afternoon was kind of cloudy, but the sun would come in and out, and the temperature was probably in the low 50s. It was kind of cool, but it was kind of a nice evening, a little breeze blowing. Around 3:30, I watched two does come from in behind me and step out in the field and start feeding. Of course, this was late January, and the rut is typically when that part of Alabama, that's when the rut's going on. So I knew that a good buck may, come show up, especially following those two does. They sit there and fed for at least 30-35 minutes. I could tell they were calm. Nothing was bothering them. They hadn't smelt me or anything. And I was just enjoying watching them, and plus just keeping my eyes out for, a buck showing up. I noticed a couple of times that the does raised their heads up and looked back behind me into the swampy area. And they would stand there for a minute just staring. And I knew then something was coming. They'd go back to feeding, and then they'd raise their head again. Well, this went on for maybe about 15 minutes, and one doe even started stomping the ground. The bigger doe, she stomped the ground a couple of times. Well, deer typically do that to make something move, or, that's their way of trying to get something to move where they can see it. So I knew then something was in behind me. That's when I started hearing something moving behind me. I could tell something was back there. Of course, in my mind, I was thinking a buck deer was slipping up. Well, all of a sudden, these two does wheeled around and took off with their tails up the opposite way. And they both snorted when they left. Well, I knew then, I said, well, more than likely that's a buck, and they don't like it. They're leaving. Well, I kept listening to this behind me, and I done got ready because I said, he may show himself here in a few minutes and I'll be able to take a shot at him. I kept noticing that it kept getting right up behind me. In other words, it was trying to get in line with me. I guess you could say it like that. My curiosity started getting to me, and I was sitting up against a big white oak. It was a huge oak, probably over 100 years old, so it was concealing my outline very good. So my curiosity got to me, so I started easing up the side of that tree where I could get to myself, where I could, get in a position where I could peep around that tree and look back in there. So I got up, got myself kind of situated, still had my rifle kind of ready just in case when I did peep around that tree, if he was standing there, I'd have a chance to, take a shot at him. Well, I looked, couldn't see nothing, which I knew, I figured the deer would be standing out in the open where I could see him. Well, about that time, about 60, 70 feet from me, which is real close, I seen movement around a tree. And I looked, and I kept looking, and I thought for a minute, I said, well, that's a person done snuck in on me, because I could see kind of a body outline a little bit. But what got me was there was no orange on him, and he was a brown colored. And I'm thinking, who would be out here hunting in a management area without orange on him? So fear had not struck in yet. You know, I thought I was looking at a human. Well, about this time, he kind of took his head and peeped around the tree at me. And I'm sitting here thinking, what is this person doing? You know, what are they doing? But I could not see the face because of the hair. And I'm going like, so I done something that I probably shouldn't have done. I raised my rifle and looked down the scope at it. Even though it's 60, 70 feet away, I pulled my rifle up and looked, and that's when I could see this much of the shoulder down the stomach leg area that was full of hair. Then I pulled the rifle up to his head. Could not see the face because, you know, these hairdos that teenagers wear now where they flip the hair over. I'm not kidding you, it's about like that right there. I could not see his face. I'm sitting here holding a rifle, looking at this. Of course, my thinking is going, what am I looking at? Well, about that time, it steps out and goes down on all fours and takes back off, back toward the back of that swamp. And it moved so quickly, he could outrun a deer. I mean, this is how fast it left there. I ain't never seen nothing move that quickly. Went back and never smelt nothing. Never really heard nothing, except for the little creeping I called when it was moving up toward me. From there, fear struck into me. Getting close to dark, I knew then I just witnessed something that wasn't a human. I came out, walked down the field, found my friend that was in the middle. I hollered at him. He come out and I asked him, had he seen anybody? He said, no, I ain't seen a soul. He said, it's been dead in here. He said, I ain't never heard it so quiet in my place. Walked on up the other end of the field, and my other friend had done left out and got back to the truck. Well, we got back to the truck, and my other friend knew something was going on because he said, Mark, what'd you see? I don't know if I had it written on my face or what, you know. He said, what did you see? What's going on? Did you see something? I said, yeah, I seen something. I just don't know what it was. Well, on the way back, we didn't really talk about it or anything. Well, the next day he calls me and he said, you seen a Bigfoot, didn't you? And I looked, you know, and I was kind of hesitated a minute. I said, yeah, I think that's what I saw. He said, don't worry about it. I done seen one. And come to find out, that's when he told me what had happened on his place years and years ago. So me and him was talking a little bit about it, and that's when I went in on the websites looking for Bigfoot in Alabama and found a website that I really liked, started communicating with them. And that's how my first sighting went. But he thinks what I seen was probably in the 6-7 foot range. He felt it was a juvenile. It was brownish colored. Like I said, couldn't make out the face because of the hair was just, I mean, it was just like a teenager would do, you know. So that's pretty much my sighting and what got me into this. Yes, it when it dropped to the ground, it was getting out of there. It wasn't a spider or a creepy crawl. It was getting out of town. And I mean, it was digging all in. I mean, you could see what little bit of it, and I should explain this. Once you get down in that part of Alabama, you start having a lot of palmettos bushes, what we call palmettos, and they grow up in the swamps. I'm surprised there's not some in here because it's being low land. So when he left, I was having to watch him on all fours go through that. But he was kind of doing you know, this number, you know, when he left. So yeah, he was, if he had been after a deer right there, he could have caught the deer. That's how fast he moved. You know, I mean, I've been a deer hunter all my life, and I've never seen a deer be able to run that quick. I mean, he could have caught the deer. You know, that's how fast he was when he left out of there. And I don't know if he thought I was fixing to shoot him. One reason he left, because I did pull the rifle up, and they know what a rifle is. They know what firearms are. So he may have took, oh yeah, I'm fixing to get shot, is why he left. I mean, he left in a hurry. If I hadn't raised that rifle, he may have not left like that. But I mean, I don't know, that's almost 20 years ago, so I don't know what was going through his mind. I know what was going through mine. But, you know, mine was, hey, you know, it's about time to get out of here. So, but yeah, but what I do remember is the arms, you know, like, you know, doing that. I think the types here in Alabama, I think there's several types. We do have the patty type. I don't think there's many of them. I think they're in certain little places. I think we have more of the, what we call the swamp skunk apes, especially the further you get into South Alabama from here. We're kind of in the, you're kind of in the central part of Alabama right now. So what's came from Creepy Mountain, my hunting lease, we know there's one up there that's around 9 foot, and he's big. We found his tracks. I got a glimpse of him one night. A couple other people have got glimpses of him, and he's more of the patty type. The one I seen in Lowndes County, I think was more of the skunk ape type. I can't say that in his face because I've never seen it, but with the hair, the way his hair was and everything. So yes, there's several different types here. There's been a few seen with the short snouts, kind of like in fact, they were called like bear men because they had a kind of a short snout. And then of course, what we call the dog man, you know, has been seen, which has the longer snout, you know, more of a wolf-looking head. Most of them are very similar. It's either hunters seeing them while they're hunting, or it's people traveling down roads and they're crossing the roads, or it's ones like Adam where they're coming around their property or around their home. Is the three I get the most of. I've been to several properties where these, and I call them beings because I really don't know what to call them, you know, so I just say beings, that live on this property or they frequent that property. And, but I'm gonna say half of the encounters I have received that I've tried to investigate or talk to the people about, most of them have been hunters. I would say the hunters have been the biggest majority. Then I would say the road crossings would be next. And then the ones actually living on properties with people seeing them on a regular basis would be, you know, probably number 3.
It was Sunday evening, and I was watching them on YouTube. It was a day when Mark and 2 more guys, there was 3 other guys, they were on a show talking about dog men. And for some reason, I just happened to I was walking this trail watching it, but I didn't have earbuds or nothing, and I had it just playing out loud. Well, that's when I felt something behind me. And I immediately got the feeling, oh, it's over with, I'm dead. I mean, I don't know where it come from, or I cut my phone off immediately. I cut the video off. I couldn't get it shut down quick enough. I was fixing to try to call Mark. I knew he was on that show. And what was crazy, Camille, my wife, didn't even know I was out here. Nobody knew. And I was fixing to try to call her, but I couldn't get that show to cut off. And I really started like panicking. I don't know, it's hard to explain really. It's really hard to explain.
I've asked Adam several times, did he know if anybody in this community was playing with the occult? He said, as far as he knew, they wasn't. I know sometimes around areas, if somebody plays with the occult or a lot of negative energy gets in an area, that it seems to stay there. One reason because he was having so much going on, and that's coming to the camper. He's finding handprints on his vehicle, on his camper. I mean, I witnessed the one on the camper. I've seen the ones that he took with pictures on his vehicle. The odd lights out here at times that ain't street lights, they're not car lights, they're not house lights, it's just an odd light. I mean, that with some of the other negative stuff that's went on here in his neighborhood, I won't say on camera, but he's probably told y'all what some stuff that's went on up here. I think there's some very bad negativity in here, which points to me, I think there's somebody around here playing with the occult. I can't prove that, but so that's why me and my wife has always thought, when me and her talked about it, and I've told Adam, I think it's a mixture of everything here in one spot, which typically happens in a lot of spots. Creepy Mountain's another one that has that. Hollins on the Talladega National Forest has that. It has all this different stuff going on in one place. One reason I told him he might need to move is because for him and her sanity, because this stuff can start getting to you. I've seen it cause people to lose jobs, get sick, divorce, even death. And I think it came from this. I can't prove it, but I think it did. I think it causes anxiety to the point it hurts people. So I don't want him to get into that predicament, and that's why I told him I felt like he should move to a different spot. Since I think I've told him that, some of it's calmed down, hadn't it? Where you have what I think paranormal and both of them mixed together, yes. Now, some of the people that had these beings on their property, they wasn't experiencing paranormal or that type of stuff, but then some people are. Some of them people having them seeing stuff in their yard, seeing orbs, some of them even seeing the UFOs, stuff flying over. And some of them just seeing these beings. So I think there's more here than just them beings. Now, are they drawn to this? Maybe. Or could it be a food supply? It's hard to say, I don't think none of us really have a good handle on that. I mean, a lot of theories, a lot of guessing. But that's what I did tell him, though. In my opinion, I think he should move if it kept getting more and more going on. I think he should move.
We deal with this stuff 7 days a week. If these things can cloak, if these things can heal people, if they can do all this strange stuff that everybody knows they can, well, they can make you have a kid too. They can do anything, I think. And I think that's what's happened to us.